A pleasant day, everyone. For today's lesson, our group will discuss the first topic in our final period, which is Chapter 5, and it is entitled as Good Governance and Social Responsibility. But before we proceed to our main lesson, let us first read the objectives for this meeting. So, at the end of the discussion, we must be able to first describe good governance and social responsibility. Second is to analyze situation relative to good governance and social responsibility. Third is to recognize with value and ethics of public responsibility. Fourth is to show with administrative ethics. And lastly is to discuss code and ethics of public service. To formally start our discussion, let us first watch a video clip illustrating the concept of good governance. The video presented consists of a glimpse of what is good governance is all about. Don't worry, because as we go on, our group will thoroughly discuss all the definition, function, and elements of good governance. For the meantime, we will first differentiate the definition of the word good and the meaning of the term governance in order to fully absorb the concept, the combination of the mentioned two words, good governance. So, what is the definition of the word good? According to Oxford Dictionary, good is something that is morally right or righteous. Although generally speaking, the word good is broad in concept since it has numerous meaning. But in the concept of ethics, the term good is defined as an act that expresses positive value about something or assign positive value to something. For example, we can say that a person is good if she possesses the characteristics of being honest, responsible, trustworthy, or open-minded. From this example, we can see that the term good is associated with positive characteristics. Now, let's move on to the definition of governance. Based on United Nations, governance refers to all the processes of governing the institutions and practices through which issues of common concern are decided upon and regulated. In simple words, it pertains to the general well-being of citizens and improving the efficiency of government. Some of you may raise the question, does government and governance are the same? Well, the answer is no. Although these two terms are used interchangeably, they still are different from one another. Government refers to the group of people who rule or run the administration of a country. Example of this is the president of our country, the vice president, senators, and as well as the local government official. On the other hand, governance is the act of governing or ruling, meaning it is a method on how to expand the efficiency of the government for the betterment of the country. To make it simple, government is group of people while governance is an act done by group of people. Now that we've known the difference of good and governance, let's proceed to the meaning of good governance. Good governance is an approach to government that is committed to creating a system founded in justice and peace that protects individuals' human rights and civil liberties. As a matter of fact, good governance enables the government to provide equal opportunities and fair delivery of goods and services to the people who are most marginal in our society. Some example of governance is the law passed by our senators. And one perfect example of this is the SOGI bill. We all know that SOGI bills protects all the rights of the all gender in our society. It helps us eliminate anti-discrimination in a workplace or school or as well as in the street. So in conclusion, good governance mobilizes the people of a country in the best direct possible. It requires the unity of people in society and motivates them to attain political objectivity. In other words, it ensures proper utilization of all the resources of the state for its citizens, which ensures sustainable development. Good governance has four distinct forms. First is the between government and the market. There is a role for government in a market economy. Government provides certain goods and services, and these services are paid for by taxes, which include such things as providing for the national defense, protecting the environment, and protecting proper rights. Statistically speaking, these businesses, whether small or large enterprises, have contributed so much in our society because they fund government by paying taxes. These taxes are important to implement the plans that the government have. Without the market, our government will die. Thus, our country, since taxes we pay regulates our country by allocating this money to different sector of our government. So, yung mga maliliit na businesses na nakikita natin sa labas ng school or kahit dyan sa sentro is malaki ang tulong sa atin kasi nagbabayad sila ng taxes. And yung taxes na yun, yung ginagamit ng government para ma-fund yung mga regulation na ipapatupad nila or yung mga act na ipapa-implement nila. The second form is between government and citizen. The state allows and creates a society of peace and quiet to enjoy our lives free of the constant fear of death as the state quells instability and anarchy. Citizens inside of democratic state borders agree that we should play our part in return to obey our state. One perfect example of good governance between government and citizen is the relationship between the government and the citizen of Japan. Alam naman nating lahat na ang mamamayan ng Japan ay napakadisiplinado at ino-obey talaga nila ang rules ng kanilang government. Dahil makikita natin sa kanilang pag-uugali na kahit simpleng pagtapon ng basura ay tinatapon talaga nila sa tamang basurahan. Dito makikita natin kung gaano ka-strong yung bond ng government and citizens dahil nga kung ating mapapansin, ang mga government sa Japan ay binibigay talaga nila yung akmang serbisyo para sa mga taga-Japan. And yung mga taga-Japan naman is nire-return yung favor by following the rules and regulation of their government. The third form is between government and private or voluntary sector. In some countries, non-governmental organizations or NGOs are major contributors to development processes. This is not uniform, however. In a number of countries, NGOs are weak or play more of a positional rather than operational role, and governments are highly suspicious of them. A number of factors influence the development impact of NGOs, many of which are determined by the relationship between the NGO sector and the state. Dito makikita natin yung relationship between the government, private, and voluntary sector dahil alam naman nating lahat na ang government is hindi kayang i-cover lahat-lahat sa isang country. So with the help of the private sectors or the voluntary sectors, nagkakatulong sila sa mamamayan ng isang bansa. For example, ang Philippine Red Cross. Alam naman nating lahat na ang Philippine Red Cross provides social welfare services. So dito, makikita natin sila tuwing may naaaksidente or tuwing may kalamidad. Silang unang rumeresponde lalo na ngayon, example na lang is dito sa Daet, napakaraming naaaksidente. So kapag may nagtawag sa landline nila or sa hotline nila, sila yung unang nagre-respond para matulungan yung mga naaaksidente. And another example is kapag may kalamidad. Makikita natin 'di ba sa Facebook yung mga post ni Gov or ni Mayor V2K na nagbabahay-bahay sila or pupunta sila sa isang lugar which is yung madaling bahain, and ang kasama nila is yung Philippine Red Cross para makita if meron bang hazard sa isang lugar na yon. Another example is yung Angat Buhay Foundation naman. Alam naman nating lahat, lalo-lalo na nung pandemic, na maraming natulungan ang Angat Buhay Foundation. Nagbibigay sila ng pangkabuhayan sa ibang mamamayan or tumutulong sila sa pagpagawa ng bahay, lalo na sa mga mahihirap na hindi talaga kayang i-afford yung mga bahay. In private sector, we have San Miguel Corporation. Although San Miguel Corporation is a big enterprise, they still care for our environment because they advocate for the protection of coastal water through its coastal resource management, which engages in mangrove reforestation, artificial reef installation, and regeneration of marine resources. So aside from paying taxes, ang San Miguel Corporation din is nag-help sa government by caring and protecting for our environment. It is very beneficial because hindi kaya lang ng government kung sila lang ang gagawa ng pag-protect sa ating environment. So with the help of private sectors, mas natutulungan nila yung government para mapanatiling maganda and healthy ang ating society. The last form is between elected officials and appointed officials. City council members, country supervisors, and other elected officials represent the citizens. Staff such as traffic engineers, waste management specialists, budget directors, IT professionals, and others are the experts who make government run. Elected officials are responsible for setting the priorities for the municipality or other district, while appointed officials have the responsibility to make those priorities into the reality. So, example of elected official is our president, vice president, or the senators, while the appointed officials are the Secretary of Department of Health or Secretary of Department of Education. In a nutshell, elected officials and appointed officials should work together in order to have an organized government, because these two help each other to implement rules in our country. So by the help of these mentioned two officials, we can say that the government can have a good governance because they work together in order to have a harmony, peace, and unity in our country.
Good governance is responsive to the organization's current and future needs, employs prudence in policy establishment and execution, and considers the best interest of all stakeholders. An organization must have major characteristics and foundations since they serve as a direction in providing exceptional services to the public. Moving on to the essential elements of good governance, following the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific, or UNESCO, an organization must possess 8 major characteristics. The first significant component of good governance is participation. This feature asserts that everyone in an institution should express their opinions and participate in decision-making processes, whether directly or through legitimate intermediaries of their interests. Additionally, everybody, with no exception, has the right to freedom of association and expression. An example of this characteristic is all gender identities in an institution are authorized to voice out their ideas and views to make headway for the organization. Rule of law, on the other hand, is the second element. Good governance necessitates fair legal frameworks mandated by unbiased and balanced governing bodies protecting stakeholders. The rules, rights, and obligations of businesses, governments, and citizens outlined in a system of legal documents recognized as a legal framework. This feature entails adhering to the community's current rules and regulations. An impartial court system and a clean security force convey this component. The third key element of good governance is transparency. The feature views that information must be accessible in easily understandable formats and media. Since governance standards and procedures influence particulars, they should be freely and directly available to everyone. As a result, enough information enables them to be easily understood and monitored. The fourth component of good governance is responsiveness. Responsiveness indicates that government regulations enable the structures and procedures of public accommodation to support all stakeholders within a suitable amount of time. The fifth component of good governance is known as consensus-oriented. This principle is related to the decision-making process. Making decisions requires deep wisdom of the historical, cultural, and community social context. This factor necessarily involves a consultation to reach a broad consensus regarding what is in the best interest of the entire stakeholder group and how to accomplish this sustainably and prudently. Sixth, in line with the importance of good governance, is equity and inclusivity. This principle entails ensuring that all members of society feel included and do not feel excluded. This feature particularly applies to ensure that the views of minorities and the voices of the most vulnerable in society considered in decision making. In addition, this necessitates the establishment of mechanisms to ensure that all stakeholder groups have the opportunity to maintain or improve their well-being. The seventh element of good governance is effectiveness and efficiency. Every decision-making process and its institutions should ensure that the decisions it produces meet the needs of the entire community. The authority must also make the best use of community resources. Accountability is the eighth and the last element of good governance. Decision makers in government, the private sector, and civil society organizations are liable to the public and institutional stakeholders. This accountability differs depending on the organization and whether the decisions is internal or external to an organization, which influence in improving the quality of society.
Political parties are crucial in a democracy because of their representative nature and because they serve as a forum for public discussions of various areas. To give emphasis to the roles of political parties, as stated in the PowerPoint presentation, they operate as a democratic tool. The political parties assist in presenting alternative viewpoints on various subjects to the public authority. Additionally, they bring together various delegates in order to form a trustworthy government. And lastly is, political parties serves as a framework to support or constrain governmental authority, to cause agreements, and to legitimate or constrain them. So the political parties enable us to distinguish what kind of propaganda a certain group of individuals running for candidacy of any positions in governing the nation and its people has. Aside from that, they inform and engage people in forming and influencing public policy, as well as impact public opinion. They also reflect the needs of the community to the government, and they act as a bridge between citizens and institutions of the government. Political parties are essential in numerous angles, including the fact that they choose candidates for elections. They put a huge amount of effort into getting votes for their candidates in the election. In addition, via their manifestos, they present the voters with goals and programs. So the election results determine who forms the government and who enacts and execute the laws. Meanwhile, opposition groups are formed by those who are not in power to keep the government in check. So to further explain how political parties run, here are some characteristics that they possess. Number 1. to attain power. So in here, political parties form a group of individuals that unites to run for office and hold power. In addition, they compete to win the favor of the publicity. The second one is pursue an ideology. Ideologies are factors that support a specific political course of action. This ideology serves as an explanatory purpose by offering answers for the social realities and problems, assisting individuals and groups in finding their place in our society. The third one is to have a common agenda. In relation to pursuing an ideology, common agenda with political parties governs future plans which were certainly made for the publicity. And with that, they could advertise themselves with a common goal to represent transparency. So the fourth and the final characteristics are to establish a government and act as a link between the people and the government, wherein they assist the people on determining who to vote and give power to in order for the people to know whether they promote good governance and attend to their responsibilities as public officials with all their might. Because they are expected to serve the nation and the people, so coordination between the government and the people is a must. So they should create a trustworthy government that people can rely on, and which furthermore contributes to efficiency to our economy, promotes goodwill, fair treatment and justice, less corruption, and more unfocused goals on attaining development. With that being said, here are the 5 roles of political parties. First one is to nominate candidates, influence policy, unite government, create balance, and lastly is to inform the citizens. Nominate candidates. Political parties are responsible for selecting candidates who will run for political office. So the parties choose candidates who believe in their party's platform. So these candidates represent the party's members and help to spread the message during the elections. Next is influence policy. Members of the Senate and the House of Representatives are also members of political parties. So the senators and the representatives from each party often work together as a group to create and pass laws that supports their party's platform. So the laws Congress passes affect the policies of our government. And people in each political party wants the government policies to reflect their own party's platform. Unite government. People in the same political party are connected because they are members of the same organization. And most members of the government on the local, state, or national level are all party members. So a party can link its members to 8 different levels of government to activate big goals for the party. Create balance. The most powerful political party is the one that has the most members elected to its office. So being in the majority means the party can focus the government's attention on issues that are important to the party's platform. While the party in the minority works hard to oppose the majority party and keep it in check. And usually, the majority party is able to get many laws passed. Depending on the minority party's strength, the majority may need to compromise with the minority before a law will pass. So in this way, the opposing party protects the interests of its own party supporters. And a similar balance exists when the president and the majority in Congress are from different parties. In this way, the opposing party protects the interests of its own party supporters. And a similar balance exists when the president and the majority in Congress are from the different parties. Finally is to inform citizens. Political parties run campaigns for candidates. And during the campaigns, political parties run television ads, distribute pamphlets, post blogs, and help candidates give speeches. All of this media helps people understand what the political issues are and how government works. However, we should be aware that all of the information a political party distributes is biased towards its own party platform. And because of this, a political party should not be a citizen's only source of information. We should learn and keep in mind how to cite resources and research legitimate information and are relevant with such events. There's this law regarding good governance. It is the Republic Act number 11292. It is an act establishing and institutionalizing the seal of good local governance for local government units and allocating for this purpose the seal of good local governance fund. This act shall be known as the Seal of Good Local Governance Act of 2019. It is a Philippine law that institutionalizes the Seal of Good Local Governance, or the SGLG, as a symbol of excellence in local governance. It is an award, incentive, or honor and recognition-based program for all LGUs and is a continuing commitment for LGUs to continually progress and improve their performance. Moreover, the Seal of Good Local Governance puts primacy to integrity and good performance as pillars of meaningful local autonomy and development. It is also a progressive assessment system that gives distinction to remarkable local government performance across several areas. And it is a continuing challenge for provincial, city, and municipal governments to do better today and in the years to come. So in here we have 10 criteria. And for the purpose of this act, the areas in the criteria shall be understood and interpreted as follows. First is good fiscal or financial administration or financial sustainability. This refers to the condition where an LGU demonstrates positive and stable economic performance and maintains, preserves, and mandatorily upholds the practice of fiscal discipline, accountability, and transparency by adhering to budgetary rules, public financial management, generally accepted and recognized accounting and auditing standards, and full disclosure policies. Next is disaster preparedness. This refers to an LGU's preparedness for any disasters or natural or man-made calamity by adopting relevant plans, taking proactive actions, and building its capacity to respond effectively to emergencies when needed. Then we have Social Protection and Sensitivity Program. This refers to an LGU's sensitivity and responsiveness to the needs of its constituents, recognizing and upholding the rights and privileges, particularly those belonging to the vulnerable or disadvantaged sectors, such as, but not limited to, women, children, indigenous people, elderly, persons with disability or the PWDs, and informal settlers. And then we have health compliance and responsiveness. This naman refers to the LGU's capability to effectively implement and deliver health services and information systems, as well as pursue evidence-based health promotion and protection policies scientifically proven and accepted to advance population, health, and individual well-being, reduce the prevalence of non-communicable diseases and its risk factors, lower the incidences of new infectious diseases, address mental health issues, and improve health status throughout the life course. Next are the programs for sustainable education. This refers to the initiatives of an LGU to institute education reforms and programs, provide equal access to quality education, promote lifelong learning opportunities for all, foster sports development, and instill leadership and patriotism among the youth, as demonstrated by positive changes in the behavior and performance of individual citizens and the community as a whole. This focuses also in the business friendliness and competitiveness. This refers to an LGU's unconventional initiative in encouraging local investment, together with local businesses, enterprises, and the working sector through the adoption of policies, programs, systems, structures, and/or the local legislation that attract and create investment opportunities and promote a business climate conducive to sustainable business growth. And of course, we have the safety, peace, and order. This refers to a condition where an LGU establishes good and respectable performance in terms of maintaining peace and order in the community, as demonstrated by reduced crime rate, effective anti-illegal drugs campaign, and efficient traffic management, among others, through the implementation of activities, programs, and policies, and the appropriate provision of support mechanisms to ensure the safety and protection of its constituencies from injuries and unnecessary threats to life, security, and poverty. Next is the environmental management. This refers to an LGU's initiative to institute policies and programs that consistently and significantly preserves and protects the integrity of the environment with primary focus on solid waste management and ecological balance, as well as mitigation and adaptation to climate change. And then, of course, we have tourism, heritage development, culture, and arts. This refers to an LGU's ability to promote and protect Philippine identity through local heritage and culture, or local legacy in terms of preserving the cultural, historical, and indigenous significance of the community. Marketing the characteristics with the LGU is known or recognized for and attracting foreign and local visitors and tourists to the locality. And last but importantly not the least is the youth development. This refers to an LGU's ability to promote and establish adequate, effective, responsive, and enabling mechanisms and support systems that will ensure the meaningful participation of the youth in local governance and nation building. The Council of Good Local Governance. There is hereby established a Council of Good Local Governance which shall be composed of the following. We have the Department of the Interior and Local Government, or the DILG, Department of Budget and Management, or the DBM, Department of Finance, Department of Health, Department of Social Welfare and Development, Department of Education, Department of Tourism, Department of Environment and Natural Resources, National Economic and Development Authority, Office of Civil Defense, and one representative from the basic sectors to be nominated by the National Anti-Poverty Commission. The DILG shall be implementing agency of this Act. It shall, through its relevant bureaus and offices, and in consultation and coordination with the partner agencies or sectors, be responsible for the assessment and evaluation of each LGU relative to its compliance with the criteria, and commend to the Council whether an LGU qualifies to be conferred or awarded the SGLG. Furthermore, the LGUs that meet the standards set by the Department of the Interior and Local Government in all areas are awarded the SGLG. This award is given annually and is intended to encourage LGUs to improve their governance practices and provide better services to their constituents. The DILG Region 5 congratulates the following 9 local government units of Bicol Region conferred with the 2022 Seal of Good Local Governance National Awards during the first cluster awarding ceremony at the Manila Hotel on December 14, 2022. So here are the examples of LGUs that have been awarded by the SGLG. We have the Legazpi City, Albay, Iriga City, Camarines Sur, Ligao City, Albay, Sorsogon City, Masbate City, Masbate, Barcelona, Sorsogon, Bulusan, Sorsogon, Pilar, Sorsogon, and D. Irosin, Sorsogon.
Now we will discuss the reforms and standards of the United Nations and World Bank. But first, let us know what is a reform. It means to make changes in something, especially an institution or practice, in order to improve it. These are the defective or an error that an institution change or improve for the better. The United Nations is an international organization founded in 1945, composed of 193 member states and headquartered in New York City. Its mission is to maintain international peace and security, promote sustainable development, protect human rights, uphold international law, and provide humanitarian aid when needed. The UN was created in the aftermath of World War II to replace the ineffective League of Nations and has since become the largest and most influential international organization in the world. United Nations Reform. Since its establishment in 1945, the UN has been subject to a number of reforms, adapting it to the changing needs and expectations of the international system. In 2017, the UN Secretary General announced the possibility of repositioning the UN development system to better achieve the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda. This led to the current reform agenda, which includes improving the development system, management, and peace and security architecture through internal review teams. The Secretary General expressed a moral obligation to do as much as possible as best as possible. The UN Reform Agenda is composed of development, management, and peace and security. There are 7 key proposals for development system reform. First is creating new UN country teams. The UN proposes to create new country teams that are tailored to meet the specific needs of each country. These teams would be demand-driven and skilled, with a focus on achieving country-specific priorities. Second is reinvigorating the resident coordinator system. The resident coordinator system is responsible for coordinating all UN entities dealing with operational activities for development at the country level. The UN proposes to reinvigorate this system to focus on sustainable development goals. Third, restructuring the regional approach. The UN proposes to restructure its regional approach to provide better support in the field. This will involve a more coordinated approach among UN entities at the regional level. Fourth, providing a space for member states. The UN proposes to create a space for member states to ensure transparency and accountability in the development system. This will involve system-wide evaluations to ensure coherent and accountable results. Strengthening partnerships. The UN proposes to strengthen partnerships to achieve the 2030 Agenda. This will involve a stronger institutional response and system-wide approach to partnerships. 6. Implementing a funding compact. The UN proposes to implement a funding compact to provide better quality, quantity, and predictability of resources for the 2030 Agenda. This will also involve increased transparency in the allocation of resources. Aligning the development system with the 2030 Agenda. The UN proposes to take concrete steps to align the development system with the 2030 Agenda, including improving the effectiveness and efficiency of the system in achieving sustainable development goals. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres' intentions for the development system revolve around achieving greater coordination and accountability in the workings of UN agencies on the ground in order to better achieve the UN's goals. These are in line with the UN's overall objective of achieving the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres' intentions for the development system revolve around achieving greater coordination and accountability in the workings of UN agencies on the ground in order to better achieve the UN's goals. These are in line with the UN's overall objective of achieving the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda. The 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda is a plan of action adopted by the United Nations in September 2015 to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure peace and prosperity for all people. The second agenda is the restructuring of the UN Peace and Security Pillar. The peace and security architecture of the UN includes various bodies and agencies responsible for maintaining international peace and security, such as the Security Council, peacekeeping operations, and special political missions. Guterres recognized the need for significant changes in this architecture in order to meet the demands of the current global security environment. However, he believed that this should be done in a way that is consistent with the broader management reform agenda of the UN. 5 areas of peace and security reform. The first one is the creation of a Department of Political and Peacebuilding Affairs and a Department of Peace Operations. The first proposed reform is to create 2 new departments within the UN. One focused on political and peacebuilding affairs, and the other focused on peace operations. The Department of Political and Peacebuilding Affairs would be responsible for providing strategic and political guidance on conflict prevention and resolution, as well as coordinating the UN's activities related to these issues. The Department of Peace Operations would be responsible for managing UN peacekeeping and special political missions, as well as supporting the development of national capacity for peace and security. Second, establishment of a single political operational structure under Assistant Secretaries General with regional responsibilities. The second proposed reform is to create a single political operational structure within each of the 2 new departments with Assistant Secretaries General appointed to oversee specific regions. This would improve coordination and coherence across the peace and security pillar, and enhance the UN's ability to respond to complex crises and conflicts. Third, the establishment of a standing principals group of the Secretary General and the Undersecretaries General for Political and Peace-Building Affairs and for Peace Operations. This group would provide strategic guidance and decision-making support to the heads of the 2 new departments. Fourth, the enhancement of certain priority areas to ensure coherence and coordination across the peace and security pillar. The fourth proposed reform is to enhance priority areas such as gender, human rights, and the rule of law to ensure coherence and coordination across the peace and security pillar. This would involve better integration of these issues into the work of the 2 new departments, as well as increased collaboration with other UN entities and stakeholders. Introduction of several non-structural changes in the way the peace and security pillar work. The fifth proposed reform include improving the selection and deployment of senior UN officials, strengthening the role of mediation in conflict prevention and resolution, and enhancing the effectiveness of peacekeeping operations through improved training and support for peacekeepers. Generally, Guterres recognized the need for change in the peace and security architecture of the UN, but emphasized the importance of implementing these changes in a way that is consistent with the broader management reform agenda. The proposed reforms aim to improve the effectiveness, coherence, and coordination of the UN's peace and security work through both structural and non-structural changes. Management reforms. There are 6 reasons why administrative reform was necessary within the UN system. The first one is the slow and unresponsive service delivery. The UN recognized that its bureaucracy had become slow and unresponsive to the needs of member states, resulting in dissatisfaction among stakeholders. Second, fragmented management structure. The UN's management structure was found to be fragmented, with unclear lines of responsibility leading to duplication of efforts and inefficiencies. Third, weak performance management. The UN's performance management system was found to be weak, resulting in poor accountability and limited effectiveness. Fourth, gaps in resources. The UN identified gaps in resources, including human, financial, and technological resources, that hindered its ability to deliver on its mandate effectively. Fifth, lack of transparency and accountability. The UN recognized that it needed to improve transparency and accountability in its operations to build trust with member states and stakeholders. Trust deficit between UN member states and the Secretariat. The UN acknowledged that a trust deficit existed between member states and the UN Secretariat, which hindered its ability to carry out its mandate effectively. Administrative reform was seen as a way to address this issue and rebuild trust. Administrative reform has resulted in the establishment of a more streamlined and efficient management structure. The introduction of a new performance management system has improved accountability, and the UN's human resources policies have been modernized to better attract, retain, and develop staff. The United Nations Standards of Conduct are a set of ethical principles and behaviors expected of all UN staff regardless of their level or location. These standards aim to ensure that UN staff members act with integrity, impartiality, and professionalism and avoid any conflicts of interest or abusive behavior. The main elements of the UN Standards of Conduct include: first, professionalism. UN staff members are expected to perform their duties to the best of their abilities and to respect the values and principles of the United Nations. Integrity. UN staff members are expected to act with honesty, transparency, and accountability in all their dealings, and to avoid any behavior that could be perceived as corrupt or unethical. Third, respect for diversity. UN staff members are expected to respect and value the diversity of cultures, languages, religions, and backgrounds of the people they work with and serve. Impartiality. UN staff members are expected to remain neutral and unbiased in their work, and to avoid any conflicts of interest or personal gain. Confidentiality. UN staff members are expected to respect the confidentiality of information and not disclose it without authorization. Protection against retaliation. UN staff members are protected against any retaliation or reprisals for reporting misconduct or cooperating with investigations. These standards apply to all UN staff members, including staff of the Secretariat, funds and programs, as well as personnel of specialized agencies and other entities of the UN system. Let's now proceed to World Bank. The World Bank is an international financial institution that was founded in 1944 and is headquartered in Washington, D.C. It is composed of two main institutions: the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development and the International Development Association, or IDA. The World Bank's mission is to reduce global poverty and promote shared prosperity by providing financing, technical assistance, and policy guidance to countries in need. It is also focused on achieving sustainable development, fighting climate change, and advancing gender equality. The World Bank works with governments, private sector partners, and civil society organizations to address development challenges and support economic growth in low and middle-income countries. The World Bank's Trust Fund reform aims to improve the transparency and efficiency and effectiveness of the bank's trust funds. The main elements of the reform include rationalizing the trust fund portfolio, reducing the number of trust funds and consolidating them to make them more effective and efficient. Second, strengthening fiduciary and financial management, enhancing the governance and management of trust funds to ensure that they are used for their intended purposes and that they comply with relevant policies and procedures. Improving transparency and accountability, making trust fund information more accessible to the public and ensuring that trust fund activities are subject to independent evaluation and audit. Enhancing client responsiveness, simplifying procedures and improving communication with clients to make it easier for them to access and use trust funds. Supporting innovation and knowledge sharing, promoting innovation and knowledge sharing through the use of trust funds to support new and innovative approaches to development. Comprehensively, the Trust fund reform aims to ensure that World Bank's trust funds are used in the most effective and efficient manner possible to support the bank's mission of reducing poverty and promoting sustainable development. The World Bank's Environmental and Social Standards. The Environmental and Social Framework, or ESF, of the World Bank, which is a set of policies and standards for the bank's investments and operations. The ESF is designed to help the bank ensure that its projects are environmentally and socially sustainable and that they do not harm people, communities, or the environment. The ESF consists of 10 environmental and social standards, which cover a range of topics including labor rights, community health and safety, biodiversity conservation, and climate change. These standards apply to all World Bank projects regardless of their size, sector, or location. The World Bank's environmental and social standards are aligned with international norms and best practices, and they are regularly updated and reviewed to ensure that they remain relevant and effective. The bank staff receive training and guidance on how to implement the standards, and the bank also engages with stakeholders, including affected communities, to ensure that their views and concerns are taken into account.
What is individual social responsibility? Social responsibility is about me, you, and us. It is about our action, how we affect people, the community, and the environment around us. What if we all accepted responsibility for the challenges that our communities face? What if we challenged ourselves to create positive impact with every action we take? Just like businesses focus on corporate social responsibility, JCI members are challenged to focus on individual social responsibility. We all have rights as citizens, but we also have responsibilities. The JCI Active Citizen Framework is a social plan that serves as a roadmap to sustainable development. That is what social responsibility is about. It is about me, you, and all of us taking responsibility for the future of our world, starting from our local community.
Hello, I'm gonna discuss this topic, and this topic is titled Social Responsibility. And what is social responsibility? Social responsibility is an ethical theory in which individuals are accountable for fulfilling their civic duty, and the actions of the individual must benefit the whole of society. In this way, there must be a balance between economic growth and the welfare of the society, and of course, the welfare of the environment. So for social responsibility, it is always connected in good governance. Why? Because it is an act for the sake of the whole society. So those individuals with power need to fulfill this civic duty not for their own benefit but also for those people under their jurisdiction. And especially those actions must be good for the environment. So now we are finished with the definition of social responsibility. These are the examples of social responsibility: working for the community, volunteering, giving blood donations, working at a food bank or animal shelter. And the other is supporting issues that affect society, such as advocating political or social issues that can help others. For example, advocating for child labor laws, purchasing fair trade products, recycling, and other issues that can affect society. So, what is the importance of social responsibility? The benefit of this always for the society and the environment, while lessening negative impacts on them. Engaging in the social responsibility can do so in a number of ways, including making changes that benefit the environment, engaging in ethical labor practices, promoting volunteering, and of course, philanthropy.
Understanding corporate social responsibility. CSR is a self-regulating business model that helps a company to be socially accountable to itself, its stakeholders, and the public. By practicing corporate social responsibility, or also called the corporate citizenship, companies can be conscious of the kind of impact they are having on all aspects of society. CSR means that a company operates in ways that benefit society and the environment instead of harming them. For a company to be socially responsible, it first needs to be accountable to itself and to its shareholders. Companies that adopt CSR programs have often grown their business to the point where they can give back to society. The CSR is typically a strategy that implemented by large corporations. After all, the more visible and successful a corporation is, the more responsibility it has to set standards of ethical behaviors for its peers, competition, and industry. Corporate social responsibility initiatives are often broken down into 4 categories: environmental, philanthropic, ethical, and economic responsibility. When we say environmental, it focuses on preservation of natural resources. Philanthropic focuses on donating to worthy causes that may not relate to a business. Ethical ensures fair and honest business operations, and economic promotes the fiscal support of the goals above. First, we have environmental responsibility. It is the pillar of corporate social responsibility rooted in preserving Mother Nature. With the serious effects of climate change strongly felt today, it constitutes a great impact when a company, especially those large, multinational, and frontrunner ones, are engaged in corporate social responsibility. Companies often pursue environmental stewardship through, first, reducing pollution, waste, natural resource consumption, and emissions through its manufacturing process. Second is offsetting negative impacts by replenishing natural resources or supporting causes that can help them neutralize the company's impact. For example, a manufacturer that deforests trees may commit to planting the same amount or more. GCash, the Philippines' leading digital mobile wallet company, announced the planting of 1 million trees via GForest, its environmental sustainability feature on the GCash app. GForest has attracted over 10 million users since its founding in 2019, and as of December 19, 2021, GForest user has planted a total of 1,060,000 trees virtually, and 1 million of which had been converted to actual trees planted in various locations. This is considered a huge accomplishment for all those who actively participated in the program as they champion environmental stewardship. Second, ethical responsibility. It is concerned with ensuring an organization is operating in a fair and ethical manner. Organizations that embrace ethical responsibility strive to be ethical by treating all stakeholders fairly, including leadership, investors, employees, suppliers, and customers. Customers of all ages, races, culture, and sexual orientation should be treated fairly. Positive treatment of all employees, including higher than mandated pay and benefits. This includes providing equal employment opportunities to all individuals, regardless of people or personal differences. One of the best company that promotes ethical responsibility is Ford. For the 8th consecutive year, Ford Motor Company has been named one of the world's most ethical companies, the longest streak for any auto manufacturer. Ford's commitment to ethics is evident in programs aimed at monitoring human rights and safety working conditions, sourcing conflict-free minerals, and programs such as the Partnership for a Cleaner Environment, which encourage sustainability throughout Ford's supply chain. Ford also foster long-term relationship with suppliers through active engagement, which includes sharing best practices as well as providing training and evaluations to ensure suppliers meet both legal requirements and Ford standards. Philanthropic responsibility refers to a business aim to actively make the world and society a better place. Organizations driven by philanthropic responsibility frequently dedicate a portion of their earnings in addition to acting as ethical and environmental friendly as possible. While many businesses donate to charities and nonprofits that align with their guiding missions, others donate to worthy causes that have nothing to do with their business. Others go so far as to establish their own charitable trust or organization in order to give back and have a positive impact on society. SM Foundation is the best example of it. You may have known someone who was a company scholar, or you have heard about and participated in the foundation's community service events. SM Foundation is the corporate social responsibility arm of SM Mall tycoon Henry C's group of companies. The retail magnate was named a philanthropic hero by Forbes Asia in 2009 and 2013. Forbes Asia also mentioned C's $112 million donation to an unnamed foundation in December 2012. SM Foundation, his primary vehicle for philanthropic efforts, focused on education, with hundreds of scholarship programs and public school buildings donations, on health with medical missions and construction of health centers, on community development with livelihood seminars, greening drives and disaster response management, including care for the environment and people with special needs. Lastly, economic responsibility. It focuses on practices that facilitates the long-term growth of the business while also meeting the standards set for ethical, environmental, and philanthropic practices. Adidas in 2019 produced approximately 11 million pairs of shoes from recycled plastics. They collaborated with Farley for the Oceans, a project dedicated to reducing plastic pollution in the oceans. So far, the collaboration has been enormously successful, preventing 2,810 tons of plastic from entering the oceans. Second is the Garnier, a French cosmetic company, recognizes that consumers' expectations have shifted and that they want to support a brand committed to sustainable development. Garnier's packaging already contains recycled plastics. By 2025, the company's packaging will be recyclable, biodegradable, and reusable, and all Garnier factories will be carbon dioxide neutral. CSR is beneficial to both the company and the business. CSR activities can help employees and corporations form stronger bonds, boost morale, and make both employees and employers feel more connected to the world around them. Aside from the environmental benefits, here are some additional reasons why businesses pursue corporate social responsibility. First is brand recognition. According to a study published in the Journal of Consumer Psychology, consumers are more likely to act favorably towards a company that has demonstrated an ability to deliver quality products. Customers are becoming more aware of the effects that businesses can have on their communities, and many now base their purchasing decisions on a company's corporate social responsibility. As a company becomes more involved in CSR, it is more likely to gain favorable brand recognition. To To distinguish itself from the competition, the company must demonstrate to the public that it is a force for good, advocating for and raising awareness for socially significant causes is a great way for your company to stay top of mind and boost brand value. Second is investors' relation. By demonstrating a well-developed CSR program and initiatives, your company will become more appealing to both current and future investors. CSR goes hand in hand with environmental, social, and governance, which help external analysts quantify the company's social efforts and become a key factor for investors' consideration and continued interest. Third is employee engagement. According to one study, sustainability strategy plays a significant role in determining whether today's top talents chooses to work. The next generation of employees is looking for companies that are concerned with the triple bottom line, or the people, planet, and revenue. Corporate revenue has been increasing since the recession is ended. Companies are encouraged to put their increased profit into charitable programs. Risk mitigation. Consider negative activities like employee ground discrimination, disregard for natural resources, or unethical use of company funds. This type of activity is more likely to result in lawsuit, litigations, or legal proceedings, in which the companies may suffer financial losses and be featured in the media. Companies can mitigate the risk by avoiding troublesome situations and complying with favorable activities by adhering to CSR practices. In conclusion, CSR initiatives strive to have a positive impact on the world by providing direct benefits to society, the environment, and the community in which a business operates. Furthermore, the initiatives may provide internal benefits to a company. Employee satisfaction and staff retention may increase if they know their company is supporting good causes. Additionally, members of society may be more likely to choose to do business with companies that are attempting to make a more conscious, positive impact outside of the scope of their business. Beyond profitability, growth rate, and brand recognition, the definition of business success is broad. Customers, employees, and other stakeholders today assess a company based on how its operation impacts the community, economy, environment, and society as a whole. In other words, whether it is concerned with the greater good rather than the greater profit. One way to demonstrate your company's stance on this issue is through the corporate social responsibility practices.
Emerging normative status of social responsibility refers to the idea that companies have a responsibility to act in the best interest of society and not just their shareholders. This includes taking into account the impact of their actions in the environment, employees, and the community. The concept has gained traction in recent years, with many companies adopting sustainability policies and social responsibility initiatives. Companies that have implemented these include those that have adopted sustainability policies and social responsibility initiatives, such as reducing carbon emissions, using sustainable materials, and supporting local communities. There are several companies in the Philippines that have implemented the normative status of social responsibility. Some examples include Ayala Corporation, which has implemented sustainability initiatives across its various business units. SM Investment Corporation, which has committed to reducing its carbon emissions and promoting sustainable practices in its operations. And lastly, San Miguel Corporation, which has implemented various programs aimed at promoting social and environmental responsibility, including a reforestation program and a sustainable packaging initiative. Additionally, this is also driven by increasing regulatory pressure and investors' expectations. Governments around the world have introduced a range of regulations and policies aimed at promoting sustainability and social responsibility. In recent years, there has been a growing movement towards creating a more sustainable and socially responsible business environment. This has led to the development of various sustainability frameworks and certifications such as the United Nations Global Compact and the B Corp certifications. The United Nations Global Compact is a voluntary initiative launched by the United Nations in 2000 that calls on business to align their operations with 10 principles in the areas of human rights, labor, environment, and anti-corruption. Companies that join the Global Compact commit to reporting annually on their progress towards meeting these principles. The B Corp certification, on the other hand, is a certification for companies that met high standards of social and environmental performance, accountability, and transparency. To become certified, companies must undergo a rigorous assessment process that evaluates their impact on workers, customers, suppliers, and environment. These frameworks and certifications provide a roadmap for companies that want to become more socially responsible and sustainable. By committing to these standards, companies can demonstrate to their stakeholders that they take their social and environmental responsibility seriously and that they are committed to making a positive impact on the world. Overall, by adopting socially responsible practices and communicating their commitment to sustainability, companies can attract customers, build brand loyalty, and contribute to a more sustainable and socially responsible business environment.
Good morning, everyone. I am Glasan S. Vilania. So the topic that I will be discussing is about governance and social responsibility. So what is governance? As you can see in the presentation, governance is about the time you dedicate to working on your business rather in it. This includes all the checks and balances you put in place to ensure you run your business smoothly. Apart from that, you need to meet its objectives and stay out of trouble. So governance also means getting an expert advice to the matter that you don't know yet. Plus, it serves as a support when you're making a big decision. So, this is why you need to explore why governance is important and the differences between doing it yourself and getting a board involved. As we all know, governance focuses on having the ability to manage and govern one's organization, wherein it is interconnected with ethical policies where the officials calculated how they will apply the best system of governance. Factually, governance assesses and analyzes what method to incorporate in order to know the institution's risks and standards. Therefore, it is a given ability that every business should possess. Governance bodies are accountable for compliances to law and regulations. For example, a compliance body may direct management to achieve compliance to a new regulation and monitor compliance on an ongoing basis. So why is good governance important? So always remember, good governance and governance is different from one another. Governance assesses and analyzes things in businesses when they're making big decisions, while good governance is the types of governance that tackles about if the businesses or an organization is performing well. So, here are the fundamental reasons why an organization should adopt good governance. First, to provide foundation for high-performing organization. The achievement of goals and sustainable access or success requires input and support from all levels of organization. The board, through good governance practices, provides framework planning, implementation, and monitoring of performances. However, the achievement of this goal becomes problematic without a foundation to build. Next, to ensure the organization is well placed to respond to a change in external environment. So, a business today operates in an environment of constant change. Technology has created an information age that has transformed around the world. And for business to survive and remain profitable, to enable it to fulfill its mission and vision. Also, a system has to be in place to assist an organization in identifying changes in both external environment and emerging trends. Next, as you can see in the picture, working in your business is anything that's job, execution, but also the management of the execution. While working on your business, however, includes anything strategic like business strategy, marketing strategy, sales strategy, product development, research and the vision and decisions that live in the C-suite. So let's move on to social responsibility. Social responsibility is an ethical theory of an individual to fulfill their civic duty, and their action must benefit the society as a whole. So, in this way, there must be a balance in economic growth and the welfare of the society and the environment. So, if the equilibrium is maintained, the social responsibility is accomplished. In other words, in their daily operations, businesses should be concerned about the welfare of the society and be mindful of how its action could affect the society as a whole. We know that social responsibility doesn't always happen despite of the seemingly best effort of the company. For example, court papers accuse British Petroleum of gross negligence for safety violations and knowingly failing to maintain oil rig, which caused death for a total of 11 workers and leak oil in the Gulf of Mexico for 87 days. So in this case, we could assess that the people questions the ability of the company to fulfill their duty to the welfare of the society. Ideally, companies should look for the main areas of social responsibility and act ethical in 4 areas. In fact, even as an individual like me, the 4 main characters or the 4 main areas of social responsibility should be imposed in ourselves, which we will discuss in this section. So first is economic aspect. So companies need to have or to maintain strong economic interests so that they stay profitable or stay in business. So being profitable and providing value to shareholders is a part of a company being socially responsible. Next is legal aspect. So, a company must follow the law and have a legal action to do so. For example, car companies are required to meet a certain level of emission in the standards of car production. Next is ethical aspect. So to be ethically responsible, you need to go above or beyond the legal requirements to meet the expectation of the society. In the recent example, Apple Incorporation policies were questioned due to the high rate of suicide of the workers in the China Foxconn factory. So, therefore, the Foxconn factory raised the salary of the workers, so to be able to meet the ethical expectation of the society so that they can encourage the companies to act ethically. So next is philanthropic aspect. So this is an expectation that companies should give back to the society in the form of charitable donations of time, money, and goods. So some organizations such as REI, based in Seattle, Washington, donate 3% of profit thousands of hours to non-profit community group each year. So for us to better understand what is social responsibility, I've added some everyday social responsibility. First, donating blood. For example, Rosemary has been donating her blood since she has a rare type A of blood. Next, recycling. The Hermahinos are avid recyclers. It's their family's customs that they have been practicing for years. Next, donating old clothes. Annie Rose and her friends or her classmates have started a campaign at school to donate old clothes to various shelters in their city. Next, planting trees. Teenagers in this country plant trees on land that was once cleared for growing soybeans but is now abandoned. Next, picking up trash. The local Boy Scout picks up trash along the beach every month and then sort it properly for recycling. Next, helping out the poor. So the Palacio family help prepare houses for people living in the poverty on the city's outskirts. So with that, let's discuss the relationship of corporate governance and social responsibility. So corporate governance is a structure of the board and the senior managers on to help them manage the company responsibly and according to sound ethics and accountability. So the principles of the corporate governance are based on transparency, accountability, responsibility, and fairness. So those four principles are also inherently related to the company's corporate social responsibility. So the relationship between good corporate governance and social responsibility helps corporations keep things in good balance. So it also supports the company's efforts to develop control mechanisms, increase shareholders' value, and improve satisfaction among shareholders and stakeholders.
That concludes our discussion about Chapter 5, Good Governance and Social Responsibility. We hope that you learned useful lessons that you may incorporate once we enter the world of business. Once again, we are the Group 5, and thank you for listening. Have a good day ahead, everyone.